And with that, I'll hand it over to Harris for the Q&A. I guess we have good 12 minutes for the Q&A.
Yeah, hello everyone. We can conclude this meeting after a Q&A session. We will use 10 minutes for Q&A. So you can go ahead asking your questions.
Manpreet, so I'm reiterating my question. So what are the tools and technology that you are aware of so far that would qualify the LLM behavior or agentic behavior? Some things that I have come up is to validate are like the prompt foo, just recently acquired by OpenAI. And we're also exploring if TPeval could help us in that, but I wanted to know from you on how else can we do that?
See, there are quite a few tools available. One's the one which you have mentioned. So I personally have used I would say there are four methodologies for evaluation. One is LLM evaluation, which is which LLM to pick based on the already published reports on the capability of LLM. So there are scores attached to it. Uh, I'll share those, you could say, evaluation benchmarks as well. Second level is the online evaluation, which is more like I've used LangFuse and AWS CloudWatch, where we could evaluate the output of an agent using a hotel trace. Third thing, which is more like a inline evaluation, where you don't want to give a bad experience to the customer, rather you inside the agentic application you put an agent which would critically analyzing the output of the previous agent and running that loop till the time the quality is good. And fourth is more like a offline evaluation, which is more like before releasing a agent to the market, how do you test it out? By the way, that is the area of my research these days. But did I answer your question, Prabhakar?
Yes, Manpreet.
Cool.
And are there any standard metrics being defined so far with respect to how do you evaluate these things, the performance aspects?
That's a very good question. I'm not aware of any standardization around that. There is standardization for LLM, but not for agents, as per my knowledge. If you guys know, let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, man. And one question I have. So, for the systems which are using multi-agents, right? What are the key best practices to be used for the observability aspects, tracing, or metrics, monitoring, etc.? So, can you just put some thoughts around that, some best practices around on lines?
Sure. Tushar, thanks for asking the question. It's a very deep question. I might not be able to go deeper into right now, but I'll try to sum it up in, say, 30 seconds. So ultimately, observability is all about MELT, which is metrics, events, logs, traces. So far, what I've seen is that uh, the traces help a lot in the agentic application. There were traces available even before agentic application came into the picture, but traces help a lot. And metrics is another thing which helps a lot. And uh, you could say cost metric is very important. Latency metric is very important. And for one of the project, I remember what we did is uh, we had a very simple, similar to Amazon chatbot, where there was an intent detection and then it's routing to the multiple agents. So we did a custom metric for that. Okay, which user journey is consuming how many tokens of that particular agent or LLM, and then we had in a way custom metric specific to that user request. We demarcated 5 to 8 types of requests and said that okay, these are top tokens, and then we did an anomaly detection of that. Whenever the number of tokens exceeded beyond a particular range, we were alerted and we were said that okay, probably this is somebody trying to hack into the system or application has broken. But to sum it up, Tushar, I would say of all the melt, metric, even logs, traces, everything holds value. But for agentic AI, I feel metric and traces, they have a significant value.
Got it. Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, Manpreet, I will ask my question now.
Sure.
this question I posed earlier. So when we discussed about the role of an agent or otherwise skills was in some other context. In crew we had backstory. So basically we are defining the skill of a particular agent, or in other case probably we are just fine tuning the LLM to do specific task, right?
Yeah.
So when we tell an LLM that you are a software engineer, you are an expert in Java or C++, does that alter anything in LLM, or
Yes.
will it in the background redirect that task to an exclusive LLM that is an expert, more trained in that language or anything?
That's a very good point, Harris. So if you're using a specific LLM,
Right.
it would not route to any separate LLM. No doubt there are mechanisms coming nowadays that you could route to a specific LLM based on the input of the query.
Okay.
But to your question, so far the examples we have seen, they are routing to a specific LLM. Now, if I could sum it up, LLMs are generally trained using large amount of data. For example, the Anthropic Claude Sonnet or Claude Opus, it uses quite a few of a GitHub code repos. And that's something which it uses as a training. It uses quite a few books. It uses quite a few other content which is available in OpenWiki and quite a few other things. That is one thing. Another thing is that these LLMs, there is a reinforced learning which is done on top of these LLMs so that they are fine-tuned to give proper output based on different situations. So far I've seen these two are the critical aspects in training of LLM. One is the huge amount of data. Another is the reinforcement learning, which happens on top of the LLM. Now, to answer your question that, okay, if we say you are a software architect or a software developer, yes, it makes the difference because it internally knows this is the personality of the user. Based on the two types of training which I talked about, it knows that, okay, it has to behave differently.
Manpreet, if you allow me to answer that for 10 seconds, maybe.
Sure, please go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, this primarily comes in back of something we called attention is all you need, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the transformer thing. So when you explicitly have a context saying that you are a software developer or you are an expert in Java, I mean, the way in which the transformer works and the kind of embeddings what it generates so that it can produce the next word, a quality word, changes a lot based on what is the, I mean, the attention what you give over there. So yeah, I mean, it all probably boils back to the transformer mechanism, or the attention is all you need, so that your next output token is of an qualitative token, right? So yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Ram. Thank you. That's a very valid point. Attention is all you need. For the folks who are not aware about that, it was a paper which was published by quite a few Google engineers. There were other engineers as well, but it was Google engineers, and then OpenAI picked it up and launched GPT. And in a way, there was a little bit irony that the company which created that paper, but the OpenAI picked it up first and commercialized it. So, but that was the huge discovery in the AI space. Yeah, thank you, Ram, for calling that out.
And then the paper is written by an Indian. His name is Ashish. Yeah, I mean, it hasn't come out, but actually the transformer, the main researcher is actually an Indian. His name is Ashish.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
great. Hey, I'll just, we still have 3 minutes, but Tag Mango would cut our meeting sharp at 12. I'll just extend it by a few minutes so that it doesn't cut it exactly at 12. Harris, meanwhile, you start seeing if anybody else has any points to make. I'll update in Tag Mango.
Yeah, do we have any more questions? If we don't have, we'll wrap up this meeting.
Yeah, wanted to know about the course that you are launching. Whether does it cover all of what you have in Udemy course? It's like complementary to that.
Give me a second, Nitesh. I'm just extending the meeting time. Okay, I've extended it by 15 minutes, but we can wrap up whenever the questions are done. So Nitesh, you were asking that, okay, does it cover Udemy course or does it have more to it? There are two aspects to it, Nitesh. Udemy course would not have the live conversation. So generally what I've seen is learning is many times better if you do you could say, learning in a group, in a peer group, in a small cohort. That is one thing. And second thing is, when somebody is doing a Udemy or online course, the motivation is not there to do the assignments. And in the cohort, we'll put a peer accountability and we'll do a cross peer review of the assignment so that the assignments are done. Third thing is, the course which I published on Udemy, that is 4 or 5 months old, and there is latest knowledge which I have gained, few more projects which I have done. We'll be sharing all the best practices in a much more refined way in the cohort. To sum it up, it would be much better output from learning perspective, be it the quality of content delivered by me, be it your engagement, because we'll be talking in peer. We'll be having 2-hour discussion every Sunday for 8 weeks. And plus also the assignment. And if you have any doubts on the assignments, there could be a discussion in the community as well of that cohort. You could ask those doubts in the 2-hour live session as well. So that is, you would say, many times better than doing a Udemy course on your own without nobody close to you helping and discussing on the topics. So remember, see, if we discussed quite a few topics, we got deeper into it because there were quite a few people involved into it. People were asking questions. There were folks, active members asking questions. That's why we went deeper into it. Yeah. Nitesh, it answers your question?
Yes, got it. Thanks.
Yeah, hello everyone. Then I think we don't have any more questions left. So we will talk to you soon. Yeah,
Yes.
I think Zain will have some question. Can you go ahead, Zain?
Manpreet, going back to the question which I asked earlier. So how do you ensure that your tokens are used optimally whenever you build this agentic application? And the second question is around the context windows, because in this whole agentic application, the context window grows. And once the context window grows, then obviously after a certain limit, the LLM summarizes the whole chat that we had earlier, and then it tries to bring down the context window. So it only remembers the important points there to ensure that the context window is kept at the optimal level. So do we also need to make sure that these things are embedded in the project that we build, or are we leaving it to the LLM itself?
So those are all very valid points. And the first point is $1 million question. What prompt to provide, what context to provide, and what is the cost associated to it? And that's where the huge amount of prompt engineering, and there's another term which I'm introducing now, context engineering. Those two are very important from that perspective. Those two together have to be there in terms of constant refinement in addition to observability. So if you're able to see tokens consumed by each request and seeing that, okay, hey, can I refine it further? Can I reduce it further? That's where the observability plus context engineering plus prompt engineering, they together come into the picture. And it is not a plain do this thing and you will get it done. There are a set of, you could say, based on the situation, you will have to put best practices in place. Another thing which I have seen is that people doing A/B testing for prompts. That, okay, let me put multiple prompts, 2 prompts, and route 10% of my users to this prompt, 90% to this. What's the output? And if this seems to be saving tokens, I'll eventually switch to this prompt, and those kind of thing. All those things happening from that perspective. Zen, I'm sorry, I missed your second point. What was that?
Regarding context windows.
Yes, context window. Just a call out over there. LLM doesn't summarize the context window. The agents written on top of LLM, they see that the context window is becoming huge. That's when they compact or summarize the context window. Few frameworks provide a feature by which, for example, Crew AI says that, okay, hey, when the context window exceeds, do you want me to summarize or do you want me to trim the input? How do you want me to do? So those kind of configurations are there, but every LLM has got a fixed context window. And we as an agent developer have to make sure that we trim based on that.
So if I understand correctly, then basically it boils down to how we define the prompt.
Yes.
That is where it completely defines how the tokens are used and how the context window is getting used.
Yeah.
Are there ways other than prompt?
Prompt plus context engineering. context engineering as in like what context we provide. For example, memory, we talked about memory, conversation history. For example, I'll also tell you that, okay, there is a good amount of discussion happening that, okay, should we pass in the complete tool information to the LLM that, okay, these tools are available, or should we shortlist and search for specific tools and pass that to the LLM? Because every extra token in the input costs. So prompt engineering is a term, but a bigger term is context engineering in terms of what is the whole context which is passed to the LLM, which is on top of prompt. So like written tool available, tool response, data coming from PDFs, which we want to pass to the LLM, all those things, RAG is what we discussed. All those things add to the context engineering as such. Does it answer your question, Jan?
Yes, Manpreet.
Cool. Ram, you have your hand raised.
Sure. I have one question, Manpreet, primarily on the recent developments regarding this OpenClaw and NemoClaw, right? The personal assistant space where there is an agentic thing. And I do hear that, or people writing articles saying, I mean, N8N is dead, Crew A is dead, and I mean, pretty much people are moving towards all this, right? So what's your thought on this and why we are thinking in that angle? I mean, or why people are thinking in those, it's like where we are heading towards?
Yeah. See, my take is that in general, you in the single flow, you talked about three types of agent. N8N is a low code, no code agentic creation framework. Their Cloud Code, OpenClaw, they're all personal assistant kind of thing. Then there is a third one, which is a uh, more code, but a very customizable agent which enterprises can host on their own. So I would say Crew AI, Langgraph, Autogen, they are all in this third category. And every of these agent types or agent categories have their own future. So no code have got the no code, low code, N8N has got the minimal customization possible. Now, so I would say N8N versus Crew AI and LangGraph, that's a good comparison. But OpenClaw is a personal assistant as per me, and it would have its own market. It is competing with Claude in a way. So that's what my take. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to see where, I mean, like whether, let's say 2, 3 years down the line, is that people will still write agents for their thing, or probably there
Ah,
is, I mean, I mean, do we have enough runway, right? I'm just trying to look into that aspect because all these things are coming in and shaking the setup world. So is that, I mean, creating the agent itself, I think it's a specialized skills, right? I view it as creation of a kind of a web browser, right? I mean, it needs to do the compaction, it needs to write like create all those conversation history properly, like all context engineering needs to be, I mean, all those sort of engineering efforts needs to go back in. So every people who are writing the agents needs to re-implement all of those aspects, right? I mean, that's where I'm just trying to see if there is something which will come up and probably um, uh, like replace all this, like our specialized agent from an, I mean, from a generalized agent aspect.
yeah. Well, I get your point. I guess if I was to say an analogy with computer science, so as computer science education, we would have done socket programming, HTTP, kernel programming, compiler writing, all those stuff we would have done, right? Now, data structure algorithms. Now, we don't use that every day, day to day. We have quite a few languages on top of that. So somebody says, okay, do you want to use Python versus TypeScript versus Java versus some other .NET for backend language? I would say, okay, let's compare it out. We'll use the one which is suitable to us. What I mean to say is that one is the principles and the concepts. Another is the application and means to end. So there are principles that are going to mostly stay the same. The application and means to end would change based on the implementation and the way market observes it. So the frameworks would come and go, right, kind of thing. But the principles are 70, 80%. 20, 30% is the uh, how part of it. That's what my view. Yeah.
Right. So there is a scope of learning all this, right? I mean, like that's gonna come handy all the way along.
Yes. I remember that when around 1.5 years back, I was going through the learning journey of all that stuff. then it was very tough to understand. But when I started making a couple of applications, couple of agents around it, and then I realized that, okay, once I've learned a framework, once I've developed first principle, I went into what does Claude agent does. It was very quick to learn because the first principles were already there. Now, similarly for OpenClaw, it would be very quick to learn. I haven't gone deeper into it, but it would be equivalent because if the first principles are there. But excellent question, Ram. Yeah, thank you.
I think we don't have any more hand raised.
Manpreet,
Yeah, sir.
the question. So regarding context windows, you mentioned that either I pass the context in the context I pass that these are the list of tools available, or or else I write a generic prompt saying that okay, you call list tools, get the list of tools available, and let the agent figure out what to call, right? Wouldn't both cost the same? Either I give the context or let the agent pull up the list of tools available and call it, because internally both are giving the prompt itself, right? So wouldn't the cost be the same, the token usage be the same here?
If I said it wrongly, let me recorrect it or rephrase it. I didn't mean to say that agent searches for the tool. What I meant is that we provide in the context window the list of tools available. Now, if let's say we have 1,000 tools available, and if we pass all those 1,000 tools to every LLM call, that context window is going to bloat up, right? But instead, if we say based on this situation, this agent only requires 10 tools. I could filter out those tools which are coming from MCP and provide only those 10 tools to the LLM. My context window input would reduce. So in a way, there is less cognitive load to the LLM. Plus, also, you could say the cost is lesser. Imagine a situation when an employee is told that, okay, you have access to these 100 tools to do this stuff, versus his or her manager says that, okay, you're only allowed to use 2 or 3 tools. Certainly the cognitive load is less. Certainly the quality of output would be a little bit more as compared to that. No doubt there are other issues with that. But Zam, this is what I meant. Does it make sense now?
Yes, but having said that, wouldn't be integrating with multiple MCPs in the agentic project, right? So we will be integrating with multiple MPCs, and it wouldn't be possible for us to define each and every tool in the context window, right? So depending on the flow, let's say on the Amazon project that you were discussing, right? So if it's an order management flow, then we say that okay, you call this MCP, get the list of tools available. The tools also have the description added to it that okay, this tool should be called, this function should be called, if this is the use case, and then let the agent figure out rather than me giving all the context up front, because that's a repetitive work, right?
So if I could get your first point right, you are saying what if there are multiple MCP servers?
Yes.
Yes, there are ways by which you could collate all the tools provided by all MCP servers and push it to the LLM. But there are ways by which you could filter and say that, okay, I only need to pass this set of tools, filter it out, and then provide that to LLM. So yes, an agent could be connected to multiple MCP servers as well, and that could be collated together, passed. But again, that's a call which has to be taken, that based on this particular situation, how do we filter out the tools? By the way, there is a lot of research or implementation happening. Probably they might have even pushed the first draft out where Anthropic would update MCP to support tool searching, where it could say, okay, give me the list of tools relevant in a particular situation. So there was a discussion, I don't know whether it's out in the market or not, but that's a very huge field, Zen, in terms of uh, what's the list of tools should we pass to the LLM, and that's an evolving field. Currently, I see the agent developers filtering in or out the tools available based on its logic and then providing that to LLM.
Got it. So basically, we depending on the use case, the agent that we are trying to build, what best suits us is something which we have to figure.
Yes. Just to call out one thing, there is, for example, AWS MCP Gateway. That's an implementation of MCP. It also provides a API to search tool, but it hasn't reached to the protocol standard as of now.
Thanks.
Cool.
Okay, then Manpreet, thanks for giving a wonderful session. We are very close to 12:15, so we have to wrap it up now.
Thank you so much.
So,
Thank you,
yeah,
Aris.
yeah.
Thank
If we have any more question, we can take it up in other ways. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Manpreet. It was a great session. I have learned a lot of things. I hope everyone learned a lot today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure, interactive session. So much more interactive than I thought. So really thankful to you guys.
Thank you. It's a wonderful session. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Manpreet. Thank you, Harish.
Thank you.
Thank you.